am I crooked? Alright, well you guys are just gonna have to look. It's been like really hot, so it's like probably been 110 degrees in this barn, and my little foam like sticky pads, these are all like sticky pads, so you can just see the bare insulation behind it. We're just gonna ignore that because today we're gonna talk about pigs. I want to talk about, hold on, I know I just said that it's been 110 degrees in here, but it's cold in here and I'm barefoot and my toes are cold, so I'm putting a blanket on. Alright, today I want to talk about my experience raising pigs. Now, oh, that was from my giveaway. Ignore the sticky note too. Still in my pajamas. I got a full day of stuff ahead of me, and we're just going to whip this video out. So bear with me because I'm going to ramble. If I forget something, I will just cut in the middle of the video, and then I'll add video later. It's fine. So I have been homesteading for quite a few years now, and we've pretty much always had cows on the property. That's one of the first things that my husband wanted. Funny enough, that's usually not something people start with. Usually chickens is the gateway animal, right? But when we moved in, we had the pasture space. Everything was mostly fenced off. So we've always had cows, and pigs are something that I've always kind of wanted. I wanted to be a well-rounded homestead. You know, we had the chickens and the cows. Pigs were the only thing that we weren't growing and raising ourselves for butcher to put into our freezer. And I wanted to not have to buy meat from the store. I wanted everything to come from my land. And so eventually I wanted pigs. Oh, that was my GoPro. I was doing another video earlier. Ignore the beeping. So I have Pumpkin. If you guys are familiar with any of my other content or just my fun little videos, you will see this fat coon running around. She is my pet pig. She lives pretty much wherever the hell she wants to, mostly in the backyard. Sometimes she's in the front yard. Sometimes she's wandering around the property, but I can't let her wander too far because the neighbors across the street have fruit trees. And one time I couldn't find her, and she was across the road, like underneath their trees, passed out after eating all the fruit that had fallen down. And it was not fun trying to get her up. I mean, think about Thanksgiving when you're like really full and you have a full belly, and that's the last thing you want to do is get up and go clean the kitchen. It was kind of like that. Like, she would not get up. And so I have to make sure she doesn't wander off too far. It's kind of funny, people honking like when she's in the road. Thank goodness no one's hit her, but we can't let her wander off too far because she just kind of does whatever she wants. So she mostly just lives in the backyard, and I give her treats. She used to come inside when she was younger. She no longer does because she can barely get her fat ass back up the stairs. She hasn't had a bath in like a year. Pigs are super temperament, so you got to be really careful even trying to give them baths. Like, it would have to be like a lukewarm bath if I gave her one. And I know pigs love mud, but she doesn't. She's like a princess. She doesn't like to get dirty. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. I have a pet pig named Pumpkin. Want to say good morning? Do you want to be in my pig video? And let's see here. It was probably another year later. I had a friend of mine, the ones that really got me into homesteading, realizing that I could have this lifestyle, that I could have all the animals, that I could still do this while working full time. They gave me pigs. They gave me 2 American guinea hogs, which are very similar to the size and shape of a coon. They are short and fat, wide shoulders. They're not typically bred for like meat hogs, but a lot of people in my area do. Like, a lot of people in my area sell coons to eat. No, I am never going to eat Pumpkin, but that's neither here nor there. They can do what they want to on their property, and I will do what I want to on mine. On mine, she's a pet pig. Anyways. So I got these 2 American guinea hogs, males. They were free, and I had the same friend came over and they helped me castrate them. That was a whole experience in and of itself. The screaming, that is not something I ever look forward to doing again, but it was the experience. Now, when we moved onto this property, the people before us, they had different areas. You know, like I said, they had the cow area. They had a goat pasture, which is essentially like my boys' riding area now. We took that down and we moved the goat pasture to a different area on the property. But they also were very heavily into 4-H, and they had pens set up. Now, when I say they had pens, I literally mean pens. Like, they had a fairly large pen and a smaller pen, I guess, to keep separate, or maybe if one was sick or to isolate one, it was a smaller one. And what my husband and I did is I wanted them to have freedom to roam. So we ended up, I'll take a clip here shortly. I'll show you later, but I'm going to try to explain it here. It's between the cows and the goats. So we extended their pasture. I wanted them to have freedom to roam, right? So they have the 2 pens, and then they have all this extra pasture space so they can go up and down the hill. It'll be good for their, you know, their back legs, their muscles. And I didn't want them stuck in pens. I try my best to give these animals the best life possible before they end up going into my freezer. That may sound harsh, but it's much better than them being stuck in a tiny pen like what they do at these giant farms. That's a whole nother topic. We're not going to get into that. Anyways, these pigs were known as the butcher hogs. When anyone went out and did chores, my kids, my husband, myself, go feed the butcher hogs. Like, they didn't have names. It wasn't 1 or 2. We just left them because that was the plan. I was going to butcher them. Now, knowing the size and shape, like I said, they're similar to a coon. They don't have a lot of meat on them, and they have a lot of fat. Now, I wasn't super worried about that because it was my first time raising pigs. They were free, so it was kind of hard to beat free, right? And I was mostly in it for the experience, but I did plan on butchering them later on when they got bigger. So obviously that's why they are called butcher hogs. But as far as the fat content goes, we try to use everything we possibly can off of the animals when we do butcher. And so I was just planning on keeping that fat for like rendering down into lard, for baking, for later. That was the whole plan. Now, when it came down to it, when it came time to butcher, it ended up not happening because we just didn't have the time. Like, my husband and I, we were so busy. We didn't have a weekend free in sight. And so what I ended up doing instead was I sold them. And we actually had people come. I want to say these people drove like 4 hours and paid me $200 a head for these 2 pigs. So, I mean, they made it worth my while. The load up wasn't exactly fun for me. I mean, I probably could have easily loaded these pigs on the trailer. They were super docile. I could have just walked them into the trailer, but no, these guys insisted on roping them and dragging them in. And next time, it's my property, I'll put my foot down. I'll be like, no, listen, you're buying them from me. I'm going to load them on your trailer, because that was really stupid. They spent like 20 minutes roping and dragging. I feel like it was more for their experience than actually loading the pigs, because I told them that I could get them on the trailer without having to rope them, but they didn't want to listen. Anyways, so we ended up not butchering those pigs. And there's a little bit of a crossover here, because I had found these other piglets on the Facebook classified that I wanted. They weren't super far from me. I think we had to drive an hour to get them. They were just across the river. And they were red wattle and Mangalitsa cross. Now, if you've done any research on pigs, Mangalitsas, they take longer to grow out. They're more of like a heritage breed, if you will. But their marbling on their meat is supposed to be really good, and their meat's supposed to be very flavorful. So I was really excited about trying them. I got them as a trio. I got 2 males. They were already castrated, thank goodness, so I didn't have to worry about that. And then a female. So it was the same kind of plan. I was going to butcher the 2 males when they came of age, and then I was going to keep the female and breed her later on. There's a little bit of a crossover here, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. For the most part, all the pigs got along fairly well, and I had the American guinea hogs out on pasture, and those pigs have super short snouts, so I wasn't worried about them digging up my pasture like these Mangalitsa red wattles will, because they have the original like long snout, and they will and did dig up the pasture. We'll get back into that later. So I think the hardest part about having all of them at the same time was trying to separate them, because they all wanted to kind of stay together. So trying to separate the guinea hogs from the the red wattle Mangalitsa's was kind of difficult, and they grew so fast. I mean, they're twice the size, maybe a little bit more than double the size of those guinea hogs or my pet pig Pumpkin. They are really big. They have really long legs, and they're just huge. I got plenty of video I'll add into this video so you can see the size difference and how big they are. But when I tell you these pigs were so docile, these red wattle Mangalitsa's, they, like, I could have had them inside as pet dogs. Like, they were super chill. As they got bigger, the males did start getting a little bit more aggressive over food. But other than that, they were all really chill. Morning, Peaches. Good morning. Sorry, did I scare you? Sorry. Are you hungry? You want to eat? Okay, we are in the pig pen. And like I said, so you can see how big these pigs are. This is Peaches. She's super chill. Just like I said, they're very docile. I wanted to show you guys the pig pen. So here are the two pens that they had originally set up. Neither one of them have gates anymore because they were both broken off. I know I said that they were both, all these pigs have been super easy to take care of, but I guess I did not tell you guys that. I mean, they weren't trying to be destructive, but it was just them like rubbing on it, using it as a scratching post that ended up taking these gates off the hinges. I use this pen as Peaches like mud hole right now. It's really important for pigs to have somewhere cool to lay down at in the summertime when it's really hot. They don't have sweat glands. They can't cool off the way that other animals or like we can. So as you can see, this is her giant hole here. I pretty much flood this out every morning before I go to work to make sure that she has somewhere that she can go to. It's fairly shaded. This is just a cheap old fucking tarp that I put up. And then let me show you the watering. So when I get to the other pen, you'll see that they constantly broke these. Once again, I mean, I guess destructive is destructive, but they were just scratching on them. It's not like they were purposely trying to break shit. But my husband has this hose set up this time now. So if she's rubbing on it or the way that she like bites on this, she's not going to be breaking the piping, because that happened quite a few times with the other pigs when we had them all in here. And this is just a basic nipple. Let's see if I can not soak myself. So they pretty much, they bite down on this and the water comes out, and that's how they get clean, fresh water. It's hooked right up to the spigot on the other side of this, and that's where the cow trough is too. Let me show you the other pen. Something fun fact about pigs is like they like to nest, and this is towards the end of my property. I don't know if you can see if I lift it up way high. This is towards the end of my property, so when the wind blows, any of the garbage or like feed bags that have not been thrown away end up right against the fence. And what they will do is they will, okay, what Peaches does, and Pumpkin has done the same thing too with cans. Like she's ripped open a bag of cans and made a nest out of it. She takes the garbage, she rips it through the gate, and she shreds it. And then this is her little home. And I know people say that pigs are disgusting, but she doesn't poop in here. This is just where she sleeps at. You can see she's kind of made a little hole over here. She's drug all this down and kind of shredded it up, and she uses it for her bed. I need to come down here and clean it all up, but I bet she will probably be mad at me. Oh, look, there's an old feed bowl over there. Here is a piece of the piping. So once upon a time, there was a pipe that went all the way across here, and we had several nipples that came out, and that was the piping that they kept breaking. Here is a piece of it. Oh, if I can pick it up. It was just simple piping that went all the way across. And hi, kitty. There's another kitty. I'll be back for you in a minute, okay? I'll be back. Hold on. And they kept breaking it. This is the fencing that I was talking about. So when we moved onto this property, these two pens were here. Obviously, they had gates. The gate is actually still here. It's just leaned up right here. It just needs to be thrown away. I'll probably keep the cattle panel for my garden or something, or if I try to make a new gate. But here is the cow pasture, way over here. And then that's my neighbor's yard. Goat pasture's over there, but we fenced in this whole area right here so they can go up and down this hill. And when we had the boys, this whole area was completely dirt. Right now, with it just being Peaches, a lot of this she is allowing to grow in because she's not rooting as much as 3 would, I guess. And fun fact, I did not plant these pumpkins. These pumpkins are from last year. I go through at the end of fall when the farmers are getting ready to clean their fields. And a lot of times they will just say, here, fill your pickup for 40 bucks, 20 bucks, whatever. And I go through and load a pickup truck, and then I feed it to all my animals as treats. And so here are the pig poop pumpkin patches that I have here. We'll see if I actually get any produce out of them. I do have an auto feeder set up in here. When we go on vacation, I do use it, but I don't use it as frequently. I usually just come down and feed her every day and every night, but I do have this that I can fill up if need be. This is, yes, hello, I can hear you. I'll be there in a minute. Can you see the kitty? Oh, right there. Prince. He's like 18 years old. My dad's cat. He's old and senile. The cat. Okay. So this is what I've been using to feed Peaches. You can, I mean, in the past I just dump the food wherever, but I try to keep it up off this dirt so they're not just eating a bunch of dirt. That is where I would put all the fermented feed at. If you just put the fermented feed on the ground, they're just gonna eat a lot of dirt. A lot of times I'll use that cement slab. That cement slab is actually what the kids that lived here before us used to use for 4-H. My kids have never done 4-H. Was never really their thing. I don't exactly know how the pad works. They had the fence around it. I'm not sure if it was like a standing stall or for bathing or what it was, but sometimes I'll feed her on that, but a lot of times I will use this. The only thing is she nudges on it and it ends up falling off. But that is Peaches. This is the pig that I plan on AIing in a few months. I've already had a few people ask about her or ask about them. When I had them out in the pasture, I had people stop asking if I had any for sale or to keep them in mind when I did have some for sale because they could see them from the road. All the way at the other end of the pasture is the main road in front of my house, and so people could drive by and see them. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Oh, do you smell the cat? Come say hi. Hi, Peaches. She's like, are you going to give me more food? So they were pretty easy to take care of, honestly. As they got bigger, they did kind of put a damper on my wallet just because they ate a lot. You know, I put them out on pasture for a little bit, but they started tearing up my pasture. They like to root and they dig, and they'll dig like giant ruts in. And first off, I didn't want to ruin my pasture. That's where my cows typically live. I don't want my cows falling in a hole and breaking a leg. Like, there's no coming back from that. And so I ended up having to move them back to their original pen and just keep them on pretty much kitchen scraps and whatever feed that I chose to buy from the store. I started fermenting it, and that did help a little bit. I would go through, it was cool enough still, like it was super early spring, late winter, right before we were getting ready to like go into butcher. So I would get like 3 days ready. So I would have 6 buckets out. I would have morning and night buckets, and then I would ferment them, and then they would be ready. So every time I would use one day, I would get the following one ready. So we had like a continuous run. And after a while, I wouldn't let my kids go into the pen anymore. And not because the pigs were aggressive, but because they were so big and they were so excited to eat. like, they weren't trying to hurt you, but you would get squished between them. And that was painful even for me. Like, I would have bruises on my hips or my legs just from trying to get in there because the pigs are like walking right next to you. And so they weren't being aggressive to you, but they just really wanted that food. And there was a few times that I would even spill the food. Like, I would get it down my boot, and of course it's all wet and fermented and stinky, so I'm covered. It's before work, and that was a whole ordeal, but we made it through. But the last, I want to say probably 2 months, I wouldn't let any of my kids go into their pen to feed because of that. Not because they would bite or be aggressive towards them feeding them, but because they wanted the food, and they would just kind of bump into you. They would corner you and squish you, and I didn't want anyone to like break a foot or to get hurt or fall down or anything and have, I wasn't going to get into that. So I ended up doing all the feeding for the last couple months, which wasn't really a big deal for me. My property is like 3-ish acres. I can't remember if I'm almost at 3 or I'm a little over 3. It doesn't matter. So it wasn't that far for me to walk down after work to do it. And the goat pasture's down there too, so it's easy to go down. Like, I like to do a walk around the property every night anyways and kind of check on everybody. So I'm going to be walking right by it anyway. Not a big deal. So we kept these pigs. Like I said, they take a little while to grow out. I want to say, I'm trying to think in my head. I was trying to do math and it's too early. Maybe I need more coffee. Oh, September, October, November, December, January, February. So they were about 18 months when we butchered. Is that right? If it's not right, I'll put the right timeline up here. And we found a butcher that's nearby that would come out and butcher for us. They just charged $100 a head for a kill fee, and he took care of it. A couple weeks later, he called us back and let us know they were ready to come pick up. And those 2 pigs ended up filling about 2 deep freezers. And so we are completely like well-rounded. I don't have to buy meat from the store. We have the cows, the chickens, the turkeys, and pigs now. And so that was a big accomplishment for me, just because it helped me realize how far we had really come. Okay, I'm going to circle back a little bit for the guinea hogs. I forgot to mention when I was talking about selling the guinea hogs, and I had said that we didn't have time to butcher the hogs. I did reach out to a few companies to come out and butcher for us, just like I was talking about with the Mangalitsa's, these bigger butcher pigs, but it wouldn't have been worth it, $100 a kill fee, and then the amount of meat that we would have gotten off of these pigs with the cut and wrap fees and stuff, it wouldn't have been worth it. We would have been like negative, and that's why I ended up selling them. Now, I did keep the female. Her name is Peaches. I still have her. She's still down in the pen, and she's lonely. She needs a friend, and I'm going to wait a few more weeks. Not weeks. I'm going to wait a few more months before I AI her. I don't want a boar on my property. I don't want to deal with having a boar. So I already have a lab lined up that I'm going to get pig semen. Did you know you can buy pig semen online? What a world do we live in? And I'm going to AI her. I'm going to wait a little bit because I don't want to have these piglets through the winter time. It's been a little bit difficult for me to offload some of my livestock this year, so I don't want to take a chance of not selling them and getting stuck feeding these piglets all winter long. So I'm going to wait until a few more months, so then it's going to be like late winter, really early spring when they're ready to wean off and sell. So that way it will be a little bit easier for me to take care of them and not worry about like heat lamps and extra feed and stuff if I end up having them through the winter kind of thing. So that's a whole nother story. I'm going to try my hand with piglets. I'm not sure if I will keep any of them to raise again for meat pigs. I'm just not quite sure. The process itself is not hard. It's not hard to take care of pigs. Now, like I said, we already had pens set up. When it came to setting up their run, if you will, we have railroad ties in, and we have cattle panels, this fencing. We had hot wire set up along the bottom, like where their nose would hit it, because it would be really easy for them to dig under. But pigs learn really, really fast. a lot of people just use hot wire and keep them in. There's tons of videos on how to build pens for pigs. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just bringing it up because it is important. They did get out a few times, like when I had them on pasture. I had this area where my water trough is and where my feed area is for my cows. When I would let the pigs into like the cow pasture, it was easy for them to get under, and so there was a few times where they did get out, but luckily enough for me, they just ran right back to the backyard, because for the first month of their life, that's where they lived at. Usually when I bring new animals home, that's where they end up going. It's kind of like my little like veterinary area. My backyard is just because I can kind of keep an eye on the animals back there, or if they're sick or injured or whatever, it's easier for me to take care of them and watch them. And when I bring new animals home, I want to make sure they're good to go before I blend them into everyone else. And as far as babies go, like I really want them close. I want to be able to make that connection with them, get used to their temperaments and their characters, and it helps me learn a little bit about them too before I move them to like their forever home, wherever that's going to be on my property. So I was lucky that they just ran back to my backyard. And it wasn't too difficult. I literally could just like walk them back to their pens. There's a few times where I would have to like get food to have them walk with me, but that's still, I mean, if you have pigs or any kind of larger animals, it's hard to wrangle them. And these pigs are like half my size, so I'm only 5 foot tall, and that would be near impossible. Like I could ride these pigs. That's how big they were. Like I said, I'm not sure if I will raise meat pigs again. It might be something where I just invest in a local farmer that has the ability to let them be out on pasture. I would prefer pasture raised pigs rather than grain fed, but if that's all that I can manage, then I may end up doing it again. That's a future me decision. I am undecided if I will do it again. I don't dislike pigs. I just dislike how much it costs to feed them. And like I said, I just don't have enough pasture space for them to tear up. You know, pigs are really good about clearing. So like if you had a lot of like land, like forestry type of land that was easy to like move them from one section to another, they would clear it and it would just grow back fairly quickly. Or people just use them to clear land. Like I could probably put hot wire up somewhere where I wanted them to like dig up weeds for me, and they would dig weeds up, but I didn't do that. I didn't want to have to worry about that. They were fine down in their little pen where they were. If anyone has the want or need to raise pigs and the ability to do so, I think that you should. I think it's a good experience. Now, like I said, you do have to make sure you have a few like amenities for them. I mean, animals, they need shelter, they need food, they need water, and you need to be able to find a way to be able to do that for them and take care of them. I do suggest looking and seeing whether or not, if you're going to butcher yourself, that you get the books or the videos to figure out how you're going to do that. Make sure you have the supplies to do that, or make sure you have a butcher nearby or someone on your phone that you can call. That is my little 2 cents on my experience of raising pigs. I might do a video in the future that maybe gets a little bit deeper on some of the experiences I had with them. And of course, I will do an update when I decide that I am ready to AI peaches and do piglets and that whole shabam. But as for right now, that is it for this video. Tell me in the comments, do you raise pigs? If so, what was your biggest struggle? Because I feel like for me, it was making sure they were getting quality feed. Let me know. And that's it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me.